A major part of human history is war. It has shaped our world as we know it today. But some wars are not entirely fought against humans, and in this video I plan on covering several concluded and ongoing wars against animals globally. Everyone knows this war, and if you don't, there are hundreds of videos explaining it perfectly. I'll even link my personal favorite coverage by Salmonella. Anyways, let's move on to the less known animal wars. In communist China, there was a targeted campaign to eradicate 4 pests deemed to be primary spreaders of disease. These pests being mosquitoes, flies, rats, and most importantly, sparrows. This was transformed into a nationalistic campaign, with propaganda posters explaining that killing these vermin would ensure the health and safety of future Chinese citizens, and in turn, the safety of China itself. The population went to work, killing as many of the animals as they could. But what the Chinese government didn't understand was the ecological impact of eradicating vital parts of an ecosystem, primarily the impact of killing almost 1 billion sparrows. But the public latched on to the idea of killing the birds, and would destroy nests and eggs, while making noise while the sparrows tried to land for rest to scare them off, which caused many to die from exhaustion. The idea of killing sparrows was not necessarily that they carried diseases, but that since they ate large amounts of grain, killing them would increase yields of primarily rice. This would actually have the opposite effect, as in the coming years, rice yields would plummet as locust populations skyrocketed and terrorized farmers, leaving their fields barren. This, on top of other policies during the Chinese Great Leap Forward, directly led to the Great Chinese Famine that killed 15 million citizens. Realizing the mistake, the 4 Pests Campaign removed sparrows from the list and replaced them with bedbugs. Cats are not native to the lands of Australia, but came over with settlers. Ever since, the cats have dominated the ecosystem of Australia, with many animals having no defense against the predator. Several species of animal have been driven near or to extinction due to the hunting skill of the feral cats, and due to this, have been deemed the largest threat to native wildlife by the government and officials. Bounties have been placed on feral cats in several states to encourage civilians in killing the harmful species. Some even devote their lives to the trapping and extermination of cats. The government itself has made the promise to the public that their ways of targeting cats are humane and justifiable. One of these methods has been to drop kangaroo sausages laced with a poison onto areas greatly affected by cats. The poison used in the sausages are from a native pea plant, so native carnivores that may come across these sausages will not be harmed by them. It is mandatory in several states to keep domesticated cats indoors at all times, and requires by law to have them neutered or spayed to avoid reproduction if they escape. However, considering that almost 1/3 of Australian homes have a domesticated cat, the killing of feral cats is very divisive among the Australian people. Some even say that this is a diversion from the real threat to native biodiversity, which is the expansion of farmland across Australia. A large portion of people are saying that cats should be made infertile and released back into the wild, while a rebuttal is that for the remaining years of their lives, they will still be killing endangered species. The organization PETA has supported this method, and, due to the unpopular cat killing, has been able to gain relatively high popularity among Australians. The government hasn't budged on its policy of killing the feral cats, and the war continues to this day. You may have seen a map like this, showing the extent of rats globally, and wondered why, in the middle of Canada, there's this massive hole. As rats are not native to the Americas, they had to traverse across the sea alongside European settlers. Considering the prairies are thousands of kilometers from the east coast, it took a while for rats to arrive there. A fearful moment occurred, as the rodents appeared in Saskatchewan at the tail end of World War II. The Albertan government was forced into making a decision: either bend to the will of the rats, or invest in keeping the province rat-free. The government chose the latter, and declared war against rats. They began spending money on several ways to keep the province from falling, like the rest of the world had, into the hands of the vermin. These posters sought to warn specifically towns and farms along the eastern border of the devastating effect of rats in farms and homes, and to instill a fear of the rodent. This effectively created an untrained militia against the invaders, who would kill without second thought. The Albertans who were unfamiliar with rats were educated, as dead specimens were brought to farms to teach Albertans what rats looked like, and to educate them on their effects on humans, and how to properly protect their property from the rodent. By this time, it was already worrying, as a few Albertan towns had rat infestations, so poison was widely used, and the results were as expected, with the rodents being pushed back. Geographically, Alberta is advantageous, as the western border is mountainous terrain, and the north and northeastern border is a thick deciduous forest. Both of these are natural defenses against rats. So, the only possible invasion would come from the 600-kilometer corridor from Cold Lake to the American border. There was a team formed to deal with any rat infestations found within a rat control zone, which is 29 kilometers from the border from the primary invasion zone. Whenever a pest control inspector would spot an infestation, or one was reported within this zone, this team would spring into action and destroy the nest. And every settlement within the risk zone must be checked annually, at least, for any sign of rats. Legislation was passed to make it illegal to have a rat as a pet if you're a civilian in Alberta, although zoos and facilities that use them for science are allowed to keep them. All of these factors have dramatically decreased the annual infestations in Alberta, and although there may be individual rats that make their way deep into Alberta, the preventative measures of the government ensure that they die before they can reproduce. As with most nations, New Zealand has many foreign predators brought to the lands by settlers, unknowing of their impact on the local environment, which has led to 80% of New Zealand's birds to be endangered by these predators, whose local fauna have no defense against. The Prime Minister at the time, John Key, had had enough of these pests, and decided to draw the line, and in his speech made to the public he said, "We want for New Zealand to show the world what sort of conservation gains are possible when there is the will and the way to make that happen. That's why I'm today announcing that we have adopted a goal of a predator-free New Zealand." Key would go on to express that this goal would be reached by 2050, and set the nation's sights on its targets: possums, stoats, and rats, which are the primary threats to New Zealand's biodiversity. This is a monumental task, as the largest island which successfully eradicated a species is 2,000 times smaller than the area that New Zealand plans to tackle, leaving many skeptical as to the validity of these endeavors. Conservation organizations are very supportive of the decision, as before, the efforts were disjointed. But now with governmental direction, there will be a united effort to eradicate the animals. The estimated cost of this effort is around $6 billion US. But annually, the government already spends around $50 million US on pest control efforts. And the government is largely leaving funding in the hands of private industries, but has pledged to donate $1 for every $2 invested in the goal. The main plan for ridding the islands of predators comes in several waves. The first of which begins with raining bait laced with poison known as 1080 to kill a majority of the pests in an area. The second step is a period of hunting and trapping to kill the few that survived the first wave. These methods have been employed successfully on 2 islands in New Zealand already. The government has been strengthening the support for this campaign by using the nation's pride for its nature and unique biodiversity to promote backyard trapping, and for individuals to do their part in ridding their homes and communities of these pests. This has been very effective, as the campaign has seen massive public support, and so far has raised around $50 million. New methods must be developed for larger urban areas like Wellington, and management of massive islands such as South Island and North Island seem to be impossible to keep under control with current eradication methods. Some progress has been seen, but this campaign is much too early in its lifespan to show massive results yet, and that is Wars on Animals highlighted.